Hey, everybody. Today we're diving into one of the hottest topics in enterprise risk management, AI, from risk mitigation to compliance. Everyone knows the rule book, the playbook, the blueprint, if there ever were one, is being rewritten by AI. So I'm really happy to have an innovator in this space today at LogicGate. Nick, how are you?
I'm good. How about you?
Good. Thanks for joining. New England representation here, both in the Boston area. Before diving into all things AI and risk, maybe introduce yourself, your background, and how do you describe LogicGate these days?
Yeah, so my name's Nick Kathman. I am the CISO here at LogicGate. I've been in tech and in cybersecurity specifically for going on over 25 years. So started very early in my career back when I went to school for what was called information assurance, which was the original DoD sponsored cybersecurity track within computer science. So I've been working in mostly large organizations, highly regulated environments since then. So everything from verified by Visa, Mastercard, Secure Card to the world's largest SAP and Epic hosting providers, some of the world's largest storage clouds, that we were white labeled all around. So most of the storage clouds you've ever heard of. So mostly with really large, really complex, really regulated environments. And now here at LogicGate, trying to help our customers, grow and mature in their risk management and GRC maturity journey.
Brilliant. I love you're a practitioner and not just a marketing type. No offense to us marketing types. So let's start with the big picture. I mean, where do you see AI adding the most value now for folks like yourself in risk and compliance in the field these days?
Yeah, so I've made the statement before. I'll stick by it. Risk management is at this point is a data sciences problem. I think if you look at the security side of the house, we're swamped with data. We've got so much data. Just look at what most security organizations are paying for their SIM costs and their data storage costs, and you'll see there's just data coming in from all over the place. And every one of your tools is giving you data all the time. But on the GRC side and the risk side, a lot of times that they're data starving. So how do we bridge that gap to really understand like every component within your cybersecurity program is linked in one way? And like one of the big examples I always get, or questions I always get is how do you set your risk tolerance? Well, if you have incident data, or not just like this something bad happened and it was confirmed, but also near misses. We had a phishing attack was successful. They got credentials, they got in, but our multi-factor stopped it. That was a near miss that your layered defense is caught. This is data that feeds what your social or what your phishing and your social engineering risk should be at and what level your risk tolerance should be so you can keep it underneath that. So where AI is really big is combing through massive data sets, finding patterns, finding components. And this will be, I think, where the industry will lean towards is we're going to take all of this data that we have on the security side, on the tool side, on the program side, and really start to feed it into custom models and custom prompts where it can go through and find those patterns and say, the last couple times that your company had these control failures in conjunction with these risk indicators, in conjunction with this other event, is when you had something bad happen related to that risk. So that risk is actually rising. The risk is going up. The risk level is going up, and you should probably take an effort to stop that now. And I think that's really the biggest thing that I can see AI doing for us right now is just combing through the massive amounts of data and making sense of it.
Yeah, great point there. Also seeing cyber insurance playing a core part of risk mitigation. How is AI changing the way underwriting works?
Yeah, so I mean they're using it for the same reasons the other side around. So, if you look at like cyber insurance for a long time was really just you fill out your questionnaires and they would kind of just rate you based on that. And there wasn't a lot of underwriting data yet for them to understand like what is the risk to this organization in this region, so on and so forth. Like just the data the underwriters had wasn't there yet. Because still at that time, most companies had no idea they were actually compromised. And if you read the Verizon breach reports back, 10 years ago, most companies were breached for 18 months before they ever realized it.
Right.
With ransomware, that's gotten shorter because now they just immediately instead of just stealing your data and persisting for a really long time, they hit you with extortion, trying to get money out of you faster. So I think now there's more underwriting information so that they know like what works, what doesn't work. And one of the things that you'll see is in cybersecurity or in cyber insurance specifically, now most of the underwriters will have a technical security engineer assigned to them as well. So as they're reading the questions, they can understand like, did you actually implement this control, or is this, is what the company telling me, does it make sense? And then from the AI side, really taking all of that data now and looking for inconsistencies, looking for any type of patterns that don't make sense, and then kind of giving it like a scoring rubric. So an example is I was speaking to some underwriters a while ago and their security engineers, and certain EDR players or certain EDR companies perform extremely well, certain ones don't. So your kind of rubric based on which provider you used can reduce your risk and can reduce your information, but it also goes into what other layer of controls you have on there and how that works together. So I think AI is really helping them, just the same thing as what we're looking at risk management, going through the data and coming up with those patterns, coming up with those indicators that they can really write policies against.
Yeah, great insight. So you mentioned the data problem. What other big vulnerabilities or blind spots are you seeing out there in enterprise AI adoption today?
Just the prolification of it. It's, AI
Yeah.
has it's kind of, I equate it almost to the internet. The
Mhm.
internet changed the way we do business completely in this world. And like, so AI, it affects everything from your FP&A to your product to engineering to how you do security to how you do marketing. And the use cases are very different. And then a lot of times what you'll see is your company will have a whole bunch of SaaS services, a whole bunch of applications they're using to help support it. And then just without an opt-in, they'll turn on the AI
Mm.
functionality. And now you're kind of chasing because you've already done your TPRM assessment against them. You understood everything that was risky about that, but now there's a whole new risk lens that you have to now evaluate against it. And I'll tell you, most of these companies, when you start asking them the AI questions and like what, how do they do their AI program? How do they have AI governance? It's like looking at this like deer in headlights. They don't know. The product teams are running very, very quickly. I almost call it running with scissors to get the AI functionality in there to keep up with the market demands. That they're not always stepping back and saying, "Is this appropriate what we're doing?" And then companies are, on the receiving end trying to figure out, is it appropriate for the product teams?
Yeah, of course, you don't know what you don't know. So, what does a successful AI governance framework kind of look like in practice? Where are people falling short?
I mean, the biggest thing is just looking at it as a single threaded, AI is AI.
Mhm.
It's like the internet; it changes everything. So really, just understanding what are the use cases that you're trying to achieve. So how you would assess risk of, we enabled AI in our SAP instance is very different from how you're going to assess the risk of AI for, I'm going to build my own LLMs for use in my
Mm.
product. And as well as, I'm going to implement Copilot for engineering, or I'm going to implement Copilot for end users. So like you have to really step back and say, what is the use case? And then it's a lot of it comes down to the what you've been doing in risk management for a long time: data, sensitivity, and impact. So understanding, in the marketing side, if we're going to use an AI tool to help write and to help, build images and sheets and product briefings and whatever else like that, it's taking data that you're giving out to the internet for free anyway. So the data sensitivity isn't that important, but there could be a lot of things around like how like data sensitivity or like AI sensitivity, bias, cultural sensitivities, like it putting in things that it shouldn't have done and upsetting
Mm.
people, so it's really trying to figure out like what that risk case or that risk acceptance or that governance use case is going to be very, very different from, I'm now building, I'm now third partying my AI for all of my source code out to a third party, and how are they? So now I'm
Mm.
taking my really sensitive IP and I'm putting it out somewhere where it could potentially be stolen. That's a completely different use case that you have to evaluate. So really, it's I would say it comes down to understanding the data, the use case, and then all of the specifics around that. And it's almost from there, it's really almost just like treating it as any other type of risk that you would have, like the prevalence, the impact, the likelihood, and then trying to understand the technical details around the AI usage. And that's where you really have to start digging into acceptable use policies and AI governance of the companies and the products that you have. Like we've seen some where in order to use this feature, and it was an opt-out feature, they actually went in and immediately they turned on this feature in a software that we already had,
Mm.
and it was an opt-out feature, and they changed their terms to say any data that you put into it is now licensed to the company, and it's like to the third party
Yikes.
and all of the subsequent uses. Like, whoa, 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 you have to cut that out of there. Whereas others will take it completely. They would say, we are not training a model; it is yours. We do not store the history and retention of this. So really understanding the data, the implementation, the use case, and making a distinction from there.
Great point. So we're talking about AI generating compliance concerns. Let's look at the flip side of how it can alleviate, compliance issues and concerns. What's the big upside or potential there?
Oh, this is like the part that kind of really excites me is
Mm.
now it can go through and the same way we're looking at risks. So like everything in cybersecurity is interrelated in one way or another. Same as business, same as kind of life. So your risks are identified or are intertwined with your controls with your tech stack or your people process technology, whatever you did to put that. So each one of them should have some evaluation of, is the control being deployed and how effective is the control? So KRI and a KPI kind of thing. So key
Mm.
performance, is the control actually out there and on every system? KRI, is it actually working? But then all of that comes back to policy statements, to incidents, um, to across the board, like there's to vulnerabilities, to assets, to everything. So like you build out this, I almost call it like if you've ever seen the graph databases where you can click on it, kind of spiders out.
Mm.
Think of all of the data that you're getting into your GRC program in that context to really understand, here's this control that I'm looking at. This control failure or this control is related to this risk to this outcome. These are the control failures against it on this asset, which has these vulnerabilities and is tied to this application with this much ARR, which is tied to these third parties, etc. So really getting all of the data in and building that relationship around it, like the matrix around it, is what AI is going to be very, very good at, is combing through all of the data and finding those relationships and then building it out so that as you as the GRC practitioner now get the full context where you can make that distinction. So it's, the example is, if you're training a prompt and say, hey, build me a business plan, it'll go out and build you a business plan. But then you say, hey, build me a business plan. It should be a SaaS software. You're going to get better results. And that, hey,
Mm.
I want to get to, $1 billion valuation within 5 years. It gives you better results. And as you keep feeding it more and more and more information into that prompt, you're going to get better and better, a better and better business plan. The same is kind of true with GRC. If you only say,
Mm.
how is this control evaluated, it's going to go out and just find stuff from the internet and say, this is how I would do it. Like according to NIST, according to OWASP, according to whoever, this is how you should evaluate that. But if you start giving it all of the extra contextual data, now it knows how that control is working in your company, in your organization, with your tech stack. And that's where most people fail, is they immediately go to the Verizon breach report says this, or the Mandiant says this, or whatever, and they say across the industry, this is what the likelihood of this happening to us is. Now, with all of the data into GRC with AI, you can now come in and start to say the context to my business is this, not just in generalities from what researchers are finding.
Great points. So if you were to give like one piece of advice to organizations just starting on this journey, maybe just adopting AI and GRC today, what would it be? How would you suggest they get started the right way?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a data sciences problem, and the
Mhm.
first part of data science is getting that data and getting it into a modern platform that will let you actually analyze all the data and build those relationships. So it's understanding, not just like step back and say, okay, here are all the processes that we have. We have a user access review that happens once a quarter. Why do we do that? What is that control, or like what is that process implemented of control? And if I have this control and we're doing this, what is the risk associated with that? And then really stepping back and saying, okay, like what are we trying to stop, and building out that big tree from there. And then as you start building this out and you start building all these complexity or all these data hierarchies, you'll start to understand, here is the data that I now need in to understand where the risks are, where the controls are, where the control failures might be, how this is contributing to the bottom line of the business, how this is contributing to this product A B, how this is contributing to pipeline. And really, so just start to understand and just on a whiteboard even draw out that flow, and then start to understand all those data points that you want to bring in, and then get a modern platform that can really start to bring this stuff in that has AI based built into it to start to understand this. That would be the first step is understanding the problem, scoping the problem, whiteboard, piece of paper, charting, Visio, whatever, can do that really well. And then figure out, okay, now that I understand the scope, now how do I get the data to support it? And then putting that into something where you can actually analyze it and get insights.
Brilliant. So you were named a leader in the Forrester Wave recently. I'm just looking, congratulations for that. What do you think was your secret there, your special sauce when you talk about your platform? What's unique about LogicGate?
Yeah, I think the big thing for us is one, ease of use. Like
Mm-hmm.
customers, I mean, both our power users who are like the admins of the platform for the customer, as well as the end users who a lot of times are doing the assessments, doing the third-party risk assessments, the privacy assessments, whatever. Always rave about how easy and modern the platform is, and how
Mm.
well it is. It's much easier to use than a lot of these old. Remember, these 17 different shortcuts and stuff like that you used to get a long time ago. Is that, as well as because of how we built our platform on a graph database, we can build those really complex relationships really, really well. So like it's a lot more flexible in a way to build it and to map that data, like what we were talking about before, all those connections in a graph database, than it would be like in a traditional SQL database. And I think
Nice.
that's really where we really shine. There is helping bubble up all of that context to where you get a really truly a holistic view, instead of just I understand my third party risk, I understand my vulnerability, I understand it brings everything together into one view.
Brilliant. So last question, a little bit controversial, but people are worried about losing their jobs to AI, but specifically in GRC. I mean, do you think there's going to be some displacement of humans who are doing risk management today, or is this giving them sort of superpowers? What's the human impact? Do you think moving forward?
Yeah, I mean it's so AI, you kind of have to break out into multiple
Mm,
not use cases, models maybe. So you have like
hmm
co-pilots, which is where
hmm
it's helping a human give a bunch of information, and it's
Right.
helping a process. Then you've got agents where it's now taking and it's actually making the decision for you. I don't know that we're there to the level of where it's going to make decisions, especially for high impact or high business value
Mm,
decisions, anytime soon. It's still just not quite there. On the co-pilot side, where it's just giving you a lot of that context, building the relationship so that a human can be in a loop, I think that's where the value is now. Whether or
mm,
not it gets strong enough to actually be able to just fully, it'll eventually get to the point where it can do specific agents for lower risk things. Like third party risk management is a prime example of this. It can go through your contract, your SOC 2, your
mm,
cake, your ISO, your vulnerability report, your pen test report, etc., and really come down and say, okay, this is a low risk vendor. It has access to this amount of, like, to this data that's not really sensitive to the company. And from a resilience perspective, it's not going to take down the company if this vendor goes down, either due to a cybersecurity event or an operational event or whatever. Then that's where an agent can come in and say, okay, we've evaluated all of this, and based on our scoring
mm.
rubric and the sensitivity of it, we can just go ahead and approve this as a low or moderate risk type of vendor. But as it gets into the higher tiers of risk, I don't see. I see it almost in the short term hiring more GRC people because the
Mm,
data will be so much more there that you can actually make those decisions and find the risks before they become a problem, versus the other way around. Now, I can't predict what will happen 20 years in the future as AI becomes a lot more powerful. Who knows? But I think as of right now it's a tool in the cog in the tool, but it's definitely going to be an assistant for a long time.
that's great. Well, good news for compliance officers everywhere. Thanks so much for joining. Really insightful view behind the curtain and how the magic is being made. Thanks so much, Nick. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed this.
And thanks everyone for listening, watching. Also check out our new TV show, TechImpact.tv on Bloomberg and Fox Business. Thanks.